They're perfect for like kids and stuff as well because they don't bite or anything. They're very, very placid.
This is a good beginner.
Good
entry level, is it?
Good entry level for lizards. I'd love to have a caiman, but they're not practical to keep as pets. So this is like the closest thing. He's going to live for 15 years plus. These are called Bowler's chameleon geckos.
I really hurt your finger.
They've got a really nasty bite.
44 setups altogether.
44 setups. The Rhino iguana.
Wow, he's massive.
He's only a baby.
Is he? How big do these get in?
He'll get to around 4 foot.
Wow. You keep him for that long?
Yeah, when I move I'll build a massive enclosure for him. Hopefully build a 10-foot enclosure, 10 by 4 by 4. He's a bit skittish, so
okay, I'll try and do a bit more.
But he's actually he's okay, but he's just goes through a bit mad, but he might get some banana. My food bill, especially for all the vegetarian eaters, is probably like 30 quid a week, something like that. Okay. It's all various diets, fruit, veg, green beans, etc. is good source of protein for them and everything as well.
Okay.
So that's quite a good one. I try not to give him too much fruit. Like he's only getting banana today. That's a little treat.
Yeah, okay, because of the sugar content?
Yeah, then potassium's a bit too much for them. So once a month is ideal to really give that to them. And also it's good for training them as well, and getting them used to you. He's normally pretty good, but he's probably a little bit camera shy, but he's lovely. Iguanas have like a 3-eye, so the third eye sits on the top. So that's basically designed for detection of predators, so birds and
above. Yeah, cool.
So he's currently going through shed at the minute, so that's probably why he's a little bit miffed as well.
Oh, okay.
So they're
a bit vulnerable.
Yeah, so unlike snakes, which should shed it all in one piece, lizards it's all bits. It all comes off in bits. No, don't eat that bit.
Was it going for the skin? But you did deal with these at work? This sort of stuff, or
I used to. So I used to work with fish and insects. So we've got a big fish facility that we use for behavioural studies and stuff with sticklebacks and malaria cichlids and stuff. So it's all behaviour stuff. Okay. And then we've got insects as well. So we've got locusts and crickets and all sorts of other stuff. We use cockroaches as well for during practicals. So that's all behaviour based. Yeah. And also for open days as well. So prospective students, if they want to come and have a look.
This is at Cambridge University?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. So what would your dream job be then, if you could choose any job?
It would be a zookeeper. I mean, obviously you don't do it for the money, but
no.
So I just see this as having my own zoo basically. Yeah. But not really struggling too much in terms of funds and stuff. So these are unfortunately endangered in the wild. So these and the Chinese crocodile lizards and the Fiji banded, they all come with CITES paperwork. Okay. Which they have to. They're Appendix 1, so they're at risk of extinction, so they have to have strong paperwork. They'll get microchipped, so they have to be a little bit older before the microchip goes in. So he'll get microchipped in November. Okay. He just needs to be a little bit bigger.
The lighting, I've noticed you've got sort of a mixture of fluorescent and infrared, are they?
Not infrared, it's halogen, but it provides off both UVA and UVB lighting, and then it's got UVB T5 tubes. Okay. And they're 14% as well, so they can penetrate more.
And what's the difference between the UVA, B and C and all of the light?
UVA is more for heat, and UVB is more for obviously the bone structure and everything. Infrared
is there UVC as well?
I don't know.
I'm talking rubbish, maybe.
I've not heard of UVC. No. It could be. UVB tubes you want to change every 6 months. Right. I do anyway. Some people will even longer, but I prefer to do it every 6 months. It's just that way I know it's done and dusted.
Do you use Arcadia lighting?
Yeah. Arcadia I think are just fantastic products. They do a lot of, and they're UK as well. So
it's nice to support that.
Nice to support that.
My first ever decent lighting system for aquariums was Arcadia. I had a T5 Luminaire. Yeah. And it was like, it was really good. It's still really good. I'd argue that T5 lighting is superior to a lot of LED.
He's on his at the minute.
I love that. It's a great shot, that is. Do you name any of them?
I try to.
Yeah.
Not all of them. I mean, I've got
many.
So he's called Denzel.
Denzel.
From Roadie Fools and Horses.
Oh, stunning. And do these change colour at all then, depending on?
They'll go a little bit. So he'll go a little bit lighter in colour when he gets older. Right. And that when he gets older, that blue will disappear. So their common name is a lesser rough-snouted gecko.
Is it so this is captive bred?
Yes, one of the rarest geckos in the world.
And how come you've got it?
My friend's been keeping these for like 20 odd years.
And the scientific name?
Is Rhacodactylus trachycephalus.
That's easy for you to say. And what do they feed on?
Get fed on locusts,
okay,
little cockroaches or dubia roaches, and then also they can feed on a powdered diet that I mix with water.
Okay.
So it's like 1 part powder, 2 parts water, and it's various different flavours. So you've got like fig with insect material, and I give that a mix, and they absolutely go ballistic for that.
Have you fed them already?
Yeah. To be fair, they'll only feed at night.
Ah, okay.
They're nocturnal.
Because that's why he's hiding away right now. Okay.
When he comes out, he's probably that sort of size.
Oh, okay.
So it's quite decent size.
That's awesome.
They live in cork hollow branches in the wild and stuff, so they don't venture down onto the floor at all. So they're fully arboreal, but unfortunately, critically endangered in the wild, which is just massive shame.
And you've got 44 setups altogether.
44 setups.
And we're in your bedroom, Danny, aren't we?
Yes.
Right now, and I have to say this is one of the nicest smelling reptile rooms I've ever been in. They tend to have a bit of a pong.
They do have a little bit of a pong.
But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised, and they're all so clean. You must spend a lot of time maintaining them.
A lot of time, both in the morning and in the evening. Mainly in the evenings. After I finished
After you finish work.
long day at work.
And what do you do for work?
So I work for the Department of Zoology, based in Cambridge. So I sort out all the lectures and practicals for students, and exams and field courses. So it's a very varied job, but it can be long hours.
Yeah.
But I have to have a little bit of a routine. So in the morning I'll do all the spraying, just a general check on the animals.
Yeah.
Feeding them, that takes a lot of time, especially with the vegetarian eaters. And then literally when I get home, I'll feed all the nocturnal stuff 2 or 3 times a week.
So how much time a day are you spending maintaining and looking after these things?
So in the morning I probably wake up at about 6, do them for maybe an hour and a half, come home, have some food, and then literally I'll probably spend maybe 2 or 3 hours sorting them all out and everything.
So it's a labour of love for you.
Yeah. It's very rewarding, and when you've done it all, you can literally just kick back and watch.
Yeah, that's a really cool view, isn't it? I see you using a lot of live plants as well.
Yeah. So it's just basically live plants, bioactive. There's all isopods and everything on there as well to keep all the substrate clean. Live plants as well. It's just much better for the animal. They'll be able to exhibit natural behaviours, as you can see with the chameleon geckos, especially the one on the bottom. Literally adjust
their size.
So they get and move around.
Wow, because I just assumed that it's the colour. Everyone knows about chameleons changing colour.
Yeah.
But they also change their dimensions. So what's the common name for this one?
So these are called Bowers chameleon geckos. Okay. So these are from New Caledonia. So these are two females that I'm raising up, and then I've got a few males that I'll be pairing with them probably next year.
The really rare one, that's one of the only ones
that's one of
live young.
Live young, yes.
But these lay eggs?
Lay eggs. So these will lay 2 eggs at a time throughout the season. They can lay up to about 20 eggs. But they'll literally bury it in the substrate. I could, if I wanted to, hunt for the eggs.
Okay.
But it ruins the bioactive setup. So I just let them hatch in the enclosure.
Oh wow.
And it's much more interesting, and also it's a nice surprise when you wake up and you see a little gecko on the glass.
That's amazing.
It's just not fun catching them if they decide to bolt. That's not fun.
Do the babies need specialist food, or they?
Again, they'll feed the same as the parents, and I will literally just mix up the flavours. So they'll get a fig and insect diet, and also they'll get a papaya flavour as well. I'll just alternate. If you try to stick them on the same type of food, they get very bored and they'll go off.
Oh, okay.
And it'll just be a pain to get them on something else. So I like to mix up the diet basically. This one is a Villarday chameleon gecko.
Okay.
Both that's its Latin name and common name. So there's 4 species in the genus, and I'm very fortunate and lucky that I've got all 4 of the genus.
I'm super impressed the way you've been labelling everything.
I have to. If I don't have it labelled, it drives me absolutely crazy. Yeah. And it's mainly due to the fact I've got unrelated ones. So when I pair them, I know exactly what the dad is, who the mum's from, and the babies I will label like pair 1. I'll have a sticker and it will say A1 on it. And that way, if I want to mix the babies up at a later date, I can do when they're older. And I know that they're unrelated and they come from unrelated stock. Just because there's a lot of inbreeding.
Okay.
and a lot of people will just chuck them together and they won't really care so much.
Yeah, you won't get inbreeding and deformities and weaknesses, genetic weaknesses and stuff.
You do, I mean, with invertebrates, like that doesn't really matter so much. You can do that to an extent, but I wouldn't recommend it. But with reptiles, you can't do it. You can't do it. You've got to keep it as mixed as possible.
Same with fish, you know, people who breed their fishes from the same genetic pool, very quickly you start getting, you know, deformed spines and bad tails and sensitivity to disease. Dan, what was the one hiding behind here?
So this is a Cuban false chameleon. So this is the baby from the parents, and again these exhibit the crypsis as well.
I think this is one of my favourites.
They've got a thing at the front called a dewlap, so that extends down.
Okay.
So they'll do that as a threat display, and also the male will use that to entice the female.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what sex that one is, but that was born in January.
Right.
It was a little bit of a slow grow at the start, but he's like now he just hammers food all the time.
So 6 months old or so?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or she.
Do
you feed them once a day?
I feed them every day.
Yeah.
I'll put in sort of half a dozen locusts, small locusts at a time.
Okay.
He has eaten some today, because I put in about 6 today, so he's eaten quite a few.
So do they kind of hunt them then?
Yeah, they're actually also snail eaters as well, so I do feed them on snails as well occasionally if I can find little tiny African land snails.
I've got loads of snails in my fish tanks. For me to bring some in?
That might work. I'll find out. But they've actually got very, very powerful jaws, and that's designed for crushing snails basically.
Yeah.
Do they need that calcium content from the shells then?
Yeah, between feeds as well. I've got various calcium and powder supplements that I'll put on the food, and that's from Arcadia, and they do a really good range of vitamins and minerals and stuff, so I'll do that all the time. So
9 years old, you had your first?
9 years old, first snake. And then I've been keeping ever since. These are, again, one of the chameleon geckos.
Okay.
So these are Occidentalis, or Western chameleon geckos. These are actually the rarest of the family, of the genus.
Okay.
They were only described in 2009.
Oh wow.
So they're relatively new to the hobby.
Yeah.
All of mine are captive bred from really good breeders who I know from both Europe and in the UK. So this one I got from a really good breeder who's based in Ireland. And we did a swap basically, so it's keeping the gene, the gene pool really, really strong and healthy.
That's good.
So there's no inbreeding. And then...
so clearly you're into conservation then?
Yeah, definitely. I try and educate people as much as I can about them. Unfortunately, I think reptiles don't get nearly enough message on conservation as what they deserve.
Yeah.
Because I think people just find them very scary and don't really see them as animals to an extent.
Culturally, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Like snakes in particular, kind of fear, they like invoke a sense of fear in a lot of folk.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Is that cultural? Is it like biological in us, do you think? Because they could actually harm us.
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, definitely in where some of these animals come from. I mean, I'll show you one of the animals in a minute. It's very much cultural in terms of what they've been taught through generations to fear these animals, because they'll come up with stories and everything as well, and just their look at the animal as well. They'll literally think, I don't really find them scary, and that's been taught down into generations, unfortunately, when actually the animal's completely harmless. And
it's similar thing with sharks, isn't it? You know, like Jaws is responsible pretty much for everyone hating sharks.
And Steven Spielberg even said, like, I regret doing Jaws. So this is a little baby, Occidentalis.
Did you breed these yourself?
I did breed this one myself,
Wow.
Danny, these are from New Caledonia.
New Caledonia.
The island
Off
of
Australia.
Off Australia.
You were saying that their habitats are pretty threatened.
Pretty threatened due to habitat destruction, also as well domestic predators, so cats and dogs, and also unfortunately fire ants have been introduced to the island. So they literally wipe everything in their path.
Wow.
And eat everything and destroy, which is just a massive, massive shame.
Fiji banded iguana.
Fiji banded iguana.
How big will these get?
So these will get to over 2 foot. Wow. Most of it is tail, so they've got a lot of growing to do. So these are only babies at the minute.
Okay. And will you keep these till they're fully grown?
Yeah. So again, when I move, I've got a lot of big plans for what I want to do enclosure wise and everything. So these are a trio, so these are all unrelated.
Okay.
They can breed after around sort of 18 months of age, but I like to give them a little bit longer.
Is this male or female?
This one's a female. The male is...
Are they different colorations? Or?
Yeah, the male's got a bit more blue on him, so that's how I tell the difference. I've got a good friend who's been breeding them for for years. These guys get fed more sort of fruit based, so berries and raspberries and stuff. These also get fed a lot of the powdered diet that the geckos get as well. The fig and insect, they absolutely love that. So I'll literally have it on a tub and I'll put that in the centre there on that ledge. Yeah. And they'll eat that, no problem at all. They love that. Fig is a massive thing that they like.
Okay, so a lot of sort of carbohydrate versus protein.
A little bit of protein. I mean, they get fed as well green beans as well, which is high in protein.
Yeah. And how long will these live?
These can live for 15 years plus.
So you're planning on moving, you're saying?
I'm planning on moving next year.
You're going to convert your new home into a...
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get...
habitat.
Hopefully if it's got a big enough garden, I'll build a massive outbuilding.
Okay, yeah.
I'll come and help you there.
Please do, I'll need some help, 100%.
And will you move same area?
I'll probably, because Cambridge is so expensive, it's I'll probably move somewhere like Ely or something.
Okay.
Or Surham or
I wonder why Ely.
I wonder.
It's not near as many reptile shops, is it?
No, I don't think there's many around there, is there?
Oh yeah, shout out to Ely Exotics.
Yeah, shout out to Tom.
Tom's a good guy.
Got some lovely stuff, and he's very, very helpful as well.
We've actually been there yet. We need to go.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I used to know him when he was at Amwell.
Very knowledgeable.
Yeah. He's more reptile than fish, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's actually got some really good fish as well. He's got some. I've never seen some of his fish like so healthy, and they're fat and chunky and colourful.
Yeah, it's always a good sign when you get fat fish. He's helped us out with the book tie, isn't he? Considerably. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing the book, 100%.
So's Ty, yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to set up a basic kind of setup for a relatively popular and inexpensive gecko,
yeah.
What are they looking at price-wise, size-wise, that kind of thing? What would you recommend?
Something nice and easy like a crested gecko, which I'll get out in a bit. Very, very easy to keep. They don't require a lot of high temperatures. So anything over sort of 29 degrees is actually fatal to them.
Oh, wow.
So what I would do is literally, you can just have the UVB, which is what I've got. So these are shade dweller lights from Arcadia.
Okay.
And you want plenty of cork bark and branches. Basically that will help with them feeling safe, but also as well, if they've not got a lot of branches, they suffer with a thing called floppy tail syndrome, where their tail will flop over.
Okay.
And that's why they haven't got enough strength to build up, not enough decoration to build up their strength and use their tail.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'll see if I can get... So in terms of setup for like a crested gecko, I would say once they're adults, you need something like at least 18 by 18 by 24, which is what is over there. They're 18 by 18, 24 exoterras. You can keep one in there quite happily. If you wanted to breed them, you could keep two in there, but you'd have to separate them so that the male doesn't breed all the time with the female. Don't cut corners.
No.
I'd say you're probably looking at least 250.
Okay, so is that the whole setup?
Whole setup.
Lighting.
Whole setup.
Decoration.
Decoration, food.
And how about the animals themselves?
They can range depending, because there's different colour morphs.
Okay.
So a normal basic one will probably cost maybe 40 to 80 quid.
Okay.
Whereas others, you're talking like $2,000.
Okay.
So if you want just a basic one, you're looking.
And the colour morphs, are they kind of selective breeding? Or is that how
so people will pick through different colours. So I've got different colour morphs. I've got het exantics. I've got a red phantom lily white, which I'll get out in a minute as well.
Nice.
I'll just clean.
Wow, look at all your product.
Yeah, I just like to keep it all clean and even false chameleons. So this is the adults. These guys come from Cuba, hence the name. These are Anal barbatus. She's just laid some eggs, so she's looking a little bit thin.
Okay.
But you can see as well on top of the head, this little bit here, it'll collect water in this little indent in the head. Yeah. So when they've got enough water, they'll just tilt their head forward, and it'll act like a droplets basically down into their mouth.
That's really interesting.
They've got tiny little, they're a bit like a gecko as well, because they've got the webbed feet with the hairs as well, called sea ties.
Okay.
Which
allow it to stick to
different surfaces. So these are actually snail eaters in the wild. So they've got incredibly strong jaw power. And I feed them locusts, snails, dubia roaches as well. They tend to like.
How do they get their water? Do you have a little bowl of water?
So I've got a spray bottle here, which I'll generally use again twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening.
Yeah.
But then they actually like it quite humid, and drink a lot of water, so I've got a built-in sprayer from Exoterra, and that's all basically timed, so it will have like 20 cycles throughout the day, and this is the duration, so I can adjust it 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds, 12, so I can literally go around and have it as much as I want.
Okay, and you use reverse osmosis water?
Reverse osmosis, I hate watermarks. Yeah. I can show you some crested geckos. These are het exantics. When they're actually sleeping, their eyes go sunken in, and then when they're woken up, they'll come out. So this is actual, like, sort of, they're a bit fired down at the minute, because obviously they're a nocturnal species. So when they've woken up, they're more darker than that.
Okay.
They've got little bits of sort of like orangey on the sides, so they'll go a bit more black. Again, they've got the web feet.
They've got eyelashes.
Yeah. So they've obviously got no eyelids, so to keep their eyes moist, they have to constantly lick them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Again, these are perfect for like kids and stuff as well, because they don't bite or anything. They're very, very placid.
This is a good beginner. Good entry level, is it?
Good entry level for lizards, or if you want to get into geckos, these are a really good type of gecko to get into. They're just very, very hardy. Yeah. Long-lived as well.
How long?
Over 10 years.
And this is a typical kind of setup.
So this is a little one at the minute. So there's a couple in there, but these are actually grown up together. Okay. So they're related to a degree, not massively. And then I've got I've got other crested geckos that I'll breed with them, that are going to be unrelated. So these will literally, when they get bigger, they'll go into a bigger enclosure, or I'll separate them out into smaller ones. Next to them, is a Chinese crocodile lizard. So these are endangered in the wild. So there's two species, they think.
Okay.
The Chinese ones are the more common ones. The Vietnamese ones you don't see in the trade at all, or not that I know of. There's only about 1,000 in the wild. This is due to habitat destruction, also illegal pet trade as well. It's a massive thing, unfortunately. These guys are captive bred.
Right.
I've seen the parents and I've got all the paperwork. They will eat snails, but they are primarily worm eaters in the wild. Okay. So in the wild, they actually live on overhanging streams, so that's why you've got all the branches and stuff that are like overlapping on the water. So when they feel threatened, they can literally jump into the stream and swim away.
Oh wow.
A little bit of cork bark in the corner, so if he wants to hide in, so cork bark tube as well, so if he wants to hide in there, he can do. Yeah. And live plants as well. So this is actually I grow for my monkey tail skink. So for something so small, they've actually got quite
good appetite.
When I got him, he was actually a lot smaller than that, so I've only had him about a month or so. But even in that time frame, like they get fed every day, because these guys actually hibernate as well. Keep them well fed so that they can get bigger, and then when it comes to hibernation, it's much better for them. Yeah. So I've got some bigger ones of these.
Same species?
Same species. So I've got one up the top there, and then I've got a little one down here as well.
Just got his head out of the water.
I've got some white cloud mountain minnows in there as well.
Yeah. Can I eat them?
They don't actually. They don't eat them at all. They leave them be, which is fantastic, because otherwise that'd cost me a fortune. And again, you've got the branches and the twigs as well.
Yeah,
so overhanging branches, so they can literally move.
That's really interesting that you have to set up the system to replicate, what they do in nature.
Exactly.
It seems fair enough. A bit like what you do with your biotopes type. Is there a reptile that you've not kept that you really would like to?
Caiman lizard. So very similar looking to these. They're from the Amazon basin. They're like bright green with a red head. Stunning animals, but at the minute they just need such a big enclosure, and I just don't have the space for them. So maybe when I move, but obviously with price of cost of living and everything as well, they need a big area for swimming that needs to be heated. I would love also some, unfortunately you can't own them, but like Komodo dragon would be awesome, but you can't keep them, which is understandable because they're actually owned by the government. It should be. Yeah. So you see that like a crocodile.
Oh wow.
But no, don't eat the tongs. No. Don't eat the tongs, there you go. So see like a crocodile that they swim.
Yeah.
They use that tail.
Yeah, that's really cool. The other guy wasn't hungry, obviously.
This one is constantly. No, don't buy the tongs. Like absolute
ravenous, aren't they?
Absolutely. This one eats like just no problem. I mean, they do eat no problem all the time, but this one is just so fixated on food. It's unbelievable. I have to be quite careful with my fingers because they'll also eat snails in the wild.
So they'll really hurt your finger.
They've got a really nasty bite.
They're not interested in the minnows.
No, not at all.
I'd rather eat trash.
But they've got like what the crocodiles have on the back, so the osteoderms on the back, and then they've got on the tail, and they're just like perfect. I mean, obviously I'd love to have a caiman, but they're not practical to keep as pets.
Yeah.
So this is like the closest thing I could get
to a caiman.
And
then much bigger will they get than this?
So these will get to about 16 inches. Oh. So at the minute they're probably around maybe 8 to 10, but they've got a lot of growing to do. But I've got a really nice gecko that I'll get out in a minute as well, called Saracenoid gecko, which is from New Caledonia as well.
I love the texture and the colour and the skin. It's outstanding.
They are little dinosaurs, aren't they?
You can just see, just in the corner, a little leaf-tailed gecko.
Oh, it's like attached to the side.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it. That was awesome. Let's get a bit closer.
I've always found like blacking out the size of the tanks definitely helps calm the animal down.
Right.
They feed better. They feel much more enclosed.
Yeah.
So these guys are Euoplotus henklei or Henkel's leaf-tailed gecko from Madagascar.
Okay.
These are one of the bigger species of leaf-tailed gecko. They can get to about 12 inches long.
Okay.
So this one's a male. You can tell by the male they've got a tiny little hemipean bulge on the base of the tail. It sort of goes inwards on the base of the tail, and also the males have a bit more black stripes at night.
Yeah.
The locals actually fear these. They actually see them as their ancestors are in them. So they are actually afraid of them. So they when they with their face, when they feel threatened, they'll open their mouth and they'll flare up.
Wow. And
they'll show their tongue. But the actual Madagascan tribes actually fear the animals.
Interesting.
So these are classed as vulnerable in the wild due to mainly habitat destruction.
I was going to talk about this because I'd never noticed this before. There's different classes of how endangered, that's the word. Not evaluated, which is the lowest, data deficient, least concern, near, threatened, vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, extinct in the wild and extinct.
So these are classed as vulnerable.
Okay.
I think in the next few years it could be potentially endangered.
And what's the reason for that? Habitat destruction?
Habitat destruction is generally the main source because people are clearing them
for palm oil,
soya, and also just general sort of agriculture for their cows and everything as well.
Yeah, okay.
The pet trade as well to a degree. Basically, you are not allowed. These are actually protected, so you cannot take these from the wild.
Okay.
They're on the CITES list.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to import them. Madagascar has banned the export of them due to keeping them that way. So these are on Appendix 2, which means they're at risk of being extinct.
Okay.
This one is captive bred.
Right.
I got this from Lee at Millennium Reptiles in Sawbridgeworth.
Okay.
He's got a fantastic room full of Euoplotus. Quite a hardy species of Euoplotus. You've got loads of different species. These ones actually like it quite dry, not wet. They'll enjoy a mist in the morning and in the evening, but if you keep them too wet, they don't tend to like it so much.
Okay.
And you've got branches that are both horizontal and vertical. That's designed for them to blend in and move where they want to. A lot of people, I've seen people not really keep them sometimes that well. You need to have that sort of barrier basically.
Okay.
And then in the wild as well, they'll have leaves on the forest floor.
Yeah.
And when they're actually laying their eggs, they'll lay 2 eggs at a time, but the female she'll roll them to stop any like bacteria and stuff as well, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's cool.
But they're stunning. Yeah, they're awesome. I will get more of those and hopefully breed them.
Yeah.
It's just
how many species have you bred then, Danny?
So I've bred my Cuban false chameleons, I've bred my chameleon geckos, I've bred maybe about half a dozen species. So I used to keep Leachianus geckos as well, which are the biggest geckos in the world. I bred them for a little while, but unfortunately they were lovely, but they are literally, you will clean the tank and then all of a sudden they will literally, the next day you'll have all all their muck on the glass, and I was just annoying to clean them. But I had all pure localities and stuff, but they all went to like really good homes and people that I trusted.
Yeah, good. Do you find it really rewarding breeding them?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like ones that aren't bred that readily. You know, I'm very big on my chameleon geckos or Eurodactylius projects. I like to think I've got quite a nice, diverse collection, and hopefully I can offer like a lot of unrelated stuff to people in the UK. But I just breed them. If they're happy, they're going to breed, which is the main thing.
So do you sell some to the hobbyists?
To other hobbyists,
or more to...
I get a lot of people that message me asking if I've got some available, but I always vet them and ask them like, do they know about them, and if they have any questions they can ask me. But I like to just give them to people that I know are going to look after them. That's and then I also sell them to shops if they want them, but only very few. Like I've sold stuff to Tom at Elite Exotics because I know that he keeps stuff really well and knows his stuff, and I can trust him with the animals. So yeah, that's the only sort of time. And also I'll do swaps with other people that keep them as well, just to keep the genetic.
Is there like a nice community of you guys that are into it?
Yeah, there's a good community, and everyone gets on really well, and if anyone has any questions they can just shoot one on the WhatsApp. We'll get on very well. In here we've got a monkey tail skink from Solomon Island. He's going to be in his branch, so he's not going to be very happy. I won't get him out, he'll bite me.
Oh right.
But you might be able to see. I'll give him some pothos. I'll cut some pothos.
Is he aggressive when you're talking?
Yeah, he's what he does, he's a little bit of a sod, because what he'll do is when he's not happy, he'll lick his lips and then he'll lunge at me. He's a little sod.
Can we film that?
No, I don't want to get bitten. They've got a really nasty set of teeth.
Yeah, okay.
But these are actually the largest species of skink in the world.
Oh, okay.
So these
how big do they get?
They can get up to 32 inches.
Wow, nearly 3 feet.
Massive animal. They live for over 20 years.
Wow.
They'll give birth to live young, and actually they'll live in a family group. So the male and the female will protect the babies.
Oh wow, look at the colours on that.
So that's not actually, he's actually fired down at the minute. When he's fired up, he goes red.
Really?
Yeah, he's stunning. So this is what they call a red harlequin, lily white. So the lily white is the white obviously on the tail and on the side.
Yeah.
So this is a boy. So hopefully he'll be able to go with some female.
Whoa, yeah, little jumper, isn't it?
Yeah, he jumps. These are like perfect pets for kids. They don't require a lot of high temperatures, so especially as well with the old price of heating and the cost of living, they're perfect. Same with the chameleon geckos. Crested geckos were actually thought to be extinct in the wild until 1994.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden they've just become one of the most popular pet lizards. It's not difficult to see why, because they're so friendly. They very rarely bite. Fantastic animals to keep. They get to a decent size but not too big.
Yeah.
You can keep them in a relatively always say bigger enclosure the better.
Yeah.
But nothing that's going to take up too much room really.
And are they normally active during the day then?
These are actually more active at night.
Okay.
They are more nocturnal species, so they will hide a lot.
Yeah.
But with the chameleon geckos, we'll put him back. He's stunning.
Beautiful.
He's stunning.
So this is a smaller setup than 12 by 18.
12 by 12 by 18. Yeah, if you put them in too big of an enclosure straight away, or just too big of an enclosure when they're young, they tend to get very stressed out, and they won't feed. Right. So it's best to sort of move them as they get bigger. It's a little hatchery, and it works actually incredibly well. So when they're young, or when they're first born, for about 3 months, they're kept in these, and then when they get older, they'll move up. So there's 3 different sizes of these guys. These are called habitat clear homes, and I found it to be perfect for baby geckos. Like, it's got plenty of ventilation on the side and on the top.
Yeah.
You can give it a good spray with the water. They don't leak. I've attached all UVB, so 7% shade dweller onto the lights.
So what does the 7% compare to?
So it's just basically a shade, so it's just not so bright for them, because where they live in the forest in New Caledonia, they're very much near the forest floor. So they're not high up in the canopy. So they're not going to get a lot of sun.
So the 7% is the shade, the intensity.
Yeah.
So 100% is full sunlight, basically, is it? Okay.
So and then I've got it all like, so these are really good because you can literally hook these up together. You can have one plug and hook them up just with extension.
That's clever, like a modular system.
Like a modular, but also as well, you can swap it so you can put, like on those ones, I've got LEDs as well for my plants.
Yeah, of course.
So you can hook it up. You can hook up to 6 on one circuit. And also as well, because it's UK, you know that it's gone through vigorous testing. For scientific, also like fire testing and that as well, so you know it's safe.
It's awesome. I think we'll call it a close there, mate, because I'm feeling a bit faint.
It is.
And I've not eaten today either, so that's I already went for a long run this morning. All right, thank you, Danny.
No worries, mate.
Legend. Thank you, mate. It's been a real pleasure. I think I've learned more today than I've learned in a long time. It's been epic. Anyone that works in the zoo that wants to employ Danny,
conservation organisations,
get in touch.
Get in touch. Yeah, 100%.
Cool, man. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Ty, for introducing us.
No, you're very welcome.
I think we met at a party at your gathering at your
You met
place.
at my house.
Yeah.
That's nice because I've known Danny for more than 10 years.
Ty used to be a customer when I worked at
and then a colleague.
And then a colleague as well.
And then a friend.
Fish friend.
Co-collaborator.
So
Exciting.
Seeing Ty from customer and then all the way to what he's doing.
When I was very
really
little.
good. Very little.
Still doing my own shoelaces.
Cool, man. All right, cool.
Thanks,
That's
Dan.
awesome. Cheers, mate.